I actually had someone who is an apologist message me, and I really hope that he can do a little better. Otangelo in Brazil. You're live with Eric and Hector.
Yes. Hello.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Fine, thanks. And you?
Good. So you added me on Facebook, and I asked you to call in, and I appreciate that you called in. You put a whole lot of messages, and I wasn't really able to see my friends anymore. So I kept you as a friend because I want to have a conversation. But it seemed like there was a whole lot of posturing going on and a whole lot of, chest thumping going on. And I'd rather just talk to each other. So
okay.
I'm going to listen to you because I want you to tell me what you want to talk about. And then I'm going to respond to you about what you're talking about. And we're going to have a dialogue. And I'm excited about that. So,
Okay.
Otangelo, what would you like to talk about?
I would like to make a first question to you.
Of course.
What are the two possible world views?
That is so open-ended, I don't even know where to begin. People who like chocolate and people who do not like chocolate.
Shall I answer to you?
No, I just did. You got to be a little more specific, Otangelo.
Okay. There are two world views. One is one with God, with the Creator, and one is a worldview without a Creator.
I would disagree.
Would you agree with that?
No. I actually think that is a wonderful example of a false dichotomy.
Yeah.
Do you understand that I can come up with a whole bunch of other possible scenarios? But I'm assuming, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in. I'm assuming you're talking about the instantiation of the universe. Is that correct?
Well, I am saying that whatever proposal you do, it can be put into either a worldview where there is a creator or the other alternative where there is no creator.
Proposal
There
for
is
what,
no
though?
other
For human
option.
existence, for the existence of the universe? Proposal for what? What are we speaking
Yes,
of?
for the existence of the physical universe, life, and our existence.
Okay, that's a little different because, you could have countless worldviews about countless number of topics or themes or whatever, but you're talking about the existence of the universe.
I would say about the existence of our existence, of the universe, the earth, planets, suns, life, biodiversity, the created world.
Okay.
So I would say that our existence can be explained in two manners. One is one with a creator, which is endless, without beginning, or you have a second option where there is no creator.
So hold on. You've done a couple things in there, and I don't know if you understand that you have. So I just kind of want to tick them off really quick. Number one, good friend of mine and the show, Matt Dillahunty, one of his favorite things that he pops up is, what about universe farting pixies? Would universe farting pixies be in one or the other? Which one would they fall in?
If it is conscient, intelligent, powerful.
No, I didn't say that. I said universe farting pixies.
Well, it depends what you understand as pixies.
I understand.
Are they conscient and
well,
intelligent?
they're tiny and they have wings, and when they
no?
fart, they create universes.
Okay, are they conscient and intelligent?
But if I may, what is the point? Okay, so you're saying there are two different ways of looking at the universe. Is there a point to that?
Well, but first I'm trying to find out if he recognizes that that's a false dichotomy. So I'm giving him a third example so that he can kind of see.
Yeah.
Because I think that at the beginning of our physical existence, there is a
Otangelo,
creator.
we'll get there. We'll get there, I promise. But I want you to answer my question because you're saying everything fits into one of two buckets. And so I said, what about universe farting pixies? Which bucket does that go in?
Well, I am asking you, are the pixies intelligent?
No.
then it would be a worldview where there is no God, intelligent being at the beginning.
But hold on, the existence or non-existence of said universe farting pixies does not say whether or not a God exists. It just says that they're what created the universe. So where do you get that answer? It feels like you're stretching.
You need to define, are your pixies intelligent or are they not?
I'm just going to say no for the sake of argument. But whether they are or not doesn't say whether or not a God exists, right? Because you can also imagine a universe where there are universe farting pixies and a God exists, and a universe where universe farting pixies are there and a God doesn't exist. But you talking about the beginning of the universe does not really necessitate a God. That's my point.
So what does it necessitate?
I don't know. Otangelo, the intellectually honest answer is I don't know.
I don't think it is an honest answer. Absolutely
How so?
not. You can know two things.
What can you know, Otangelo?
From nothing. Yes, you can know that from nothing comes. Do you agree with that?
Nothing comes from nothing?
No.
You know,
Nothing is alive. Nothing is the absence of anything.
You know, I've actually seen some really interesting talks about nothing and about the absence of anything. And I think that's a rather interesting thought experiment, but I really don't think I'm qualified. My math isn't very good. How about you, Hector?
I'm not a physicist per se, but I still keep wanting to get to what is your point? What is your point about there's two ways of looking at the universe?
That's the point. If nothing has no creative powers, then atheism is false.
What? Okay, so you do realize that when you make a point, you need to back it up.
Absolutely.
And
if absolute nothing has no creative powers,
Hector, no, you're Otangelo. I'm getting weird here.
No.
Otangelo, so help me out here. So it seems like what you're doing is trying to construct a dichotomy and then tearing the other down without providing any evidence for your own point. It is, I'm glad you agree. Otangelo.
Tell me another option. Tell me a third option. I say there is either God or there is none. Which is the third option?
Otangelo, are you saying that something cannot exist without having been created by some entity? Is that what you're saying?
Excuse me, I didn't understand.
Are you trying to make the argument that things can't exist without some entity having created it? Is that do you believe that?
Well, I will just say this. From absolutely nothing comes.
Why do you think that there's nothing, though, Otangelo?
I didn't say that.
You're saying from nothing comes nothing. This is weird.
My proposition is
Please.
that there is an eternal God. That is my proposition.
But can you answer that question I asked you earlier, though? Because do you believe that something has to have come from a creator? It has to be created for anything to exist, matter, the universe, humanity, diversity of life, as you said earlier. Does something have to have been created by an entity? Or do you believe something different than that? Is that what you believe?
Well, I believe that if the universe had a beginning, then you have just three options to explain the existence of the universe. One is an eternal creator of some sort. The second option is that absolutely nothing created the universe. And the third option would be that there would be an eternal universe which has never been created. Or in my view,
or universe farting pixies. And you got to remember, Otangelo, what you're doing is adding. See, this is another thing I put a pin in. But actually, you know what? Let's put a pin in this because you completely sidestepped Hector's question, and that's not fair to him. He asked you a question; he deserves an answer.
Okay, could you ask again, please?
I have many questions. I asked that question a couple times, and okay,
I answered it.
Let me
It
ask
would-
you this, Otangelo. Would it make you feel uncomfortable? Would it make you feel unsettled if the universe came from nothing? What does that proposition do to you emotionally?
It's illogical.
But that's not what I asked. Does it make you feel scared?
It's a question about feeling. It's a question about reason, if it's logical or not, and it's simply irrational. It's
Okay, then let's follow logic through. So do you think that matter has to anything in the universe has to have a creator to exist, or can it come up from nothing? Does it have to have some kind of entity creating it?
Well, science says, and this in a consensus, that the universe had a beginning. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think it's hard for you to answer that question. It's a pretty simple question.
No. I'm just going with science, and science says that the universe had a beginning. If it had a beginning, then it must have had a cause. Very logical.
No, not logical, Otangelo, and I'll tell you why. So from my understanding of it is that observations of a red shift indicate that things are moving apart from each other in the universe. And so if we were to rewind that, we would get to a possible singularity. And we have labeled the expanse of that singularity the Big Bang, kind of a misnomer, but that's all we have. And so the right thing to do is say, I don't know for the rest, because then you give yourself permission to learn, right? What you're doing is saying, I think that is a beginning point, therefore God. There's a chance it wasn't a beginning point, or there's a chance that that doesn't even make sense given the context of the way time and space interact. But you have to understand, man, that you actually need to back up the idea of an eternal being, right? Are there any other eternal beings that you can point me to so I can compare?
Well, you said that the singularity could be eternal. No, it could not be eternal.
I didn't say that. And my question was, do you have an example of any other eternal beings that are existent that I can compare against the one you're talking about?
Well, I don't have to make a definition about what kind of eternal being that it is.
Oh, you
My
don't have
point
to make
is
a
that
definition.
there
You
is-
can just assert a point and say you're right.
At this point,
Is that right?
no. At this point, no. We can develop the idea, but at this point, my only proposition is that if the universe had a beginning, and science says it had a beginning, then there must have been a cause. And that cause could not have had a beginning too, because then it would be eternal regress.
Yeah,
So
which
there
is
must
why...
have been a cause.
No, actually,
which
no.
had no.
No, because that's special pleading. Do you understand special pleading?
Well, listen, the same proposition that...
Hold on. No. I asked you, do you understand what special pleading is, Otangelo?
I know it, but it does not...
Okay, good. Then answer. I'd like to know that we're not just talking past each other. So there's something called affirmation, and I want to affirm to you that you understand what I'm saying. And I want to affirm to you that I understand what you're saying, which is why I try and reflect back, I mirror back a bit of what you said so that I make sure that I've got the right idea of what's going on, right? I'd like to do a little bit of the same. That way we know that we're having a conversation.
Okay.
Okay, so...
Go ahead.
Thank you. So where I was going with this was I asked, do you understand what special pleading is? And the reason for the audience is special pleading is when you make a special exception in one case, right? And so if you find yourself in an infinite regress, in this example, if you were to say, what created the universe? Well, God. Well, what created God? It can't because I made a special rule. Because otherwise, you're just going to get a whole line. It's turtles the whole way down. So you've got to take into account special pleading. And so it seems like you are saying that your God gets a special privilege Is that right? I don't want to mischaracterize what you're saying.
I do not agree with you, because it's not special pleading to say God is eternal, since it's exactly what the atheist has traditionally said about the universe. It is eternal and uncaused. The problem is that we have good evidence that the universe is not eternal but had a beginning. And so the atheist is backed into the corner of saying the universe sprang into being cause, which is absurd.
No, actually, it's absurd. And I saw this on your Facebook, which really kind of fried my noodle a little bit, is that you said the atheist. You're talking to the atheist. If you want to create a straw man or talk about an atheist that isn't in the room, either you can do that with your friends and get nowhere, or you can listen to the person you're talking to and have a conversation. But I did not say that. I did not make that assertion. And I wouldn't make that assertion even if I was given the opportunity, because I don't believe that. So, Otangelo, are you talking to me, or are you talking to the atheist that you have in your head?
Well, I just answered your point. It is not special pleading to say that God is eternal, because that is exactly the same thing that atheists have said about the universe up to about 100 years ago.
So,
and nobody said back then that is special pleading to say that the universe is eternal. So why does it apply to God and not to the universe?
So here's the thing. I don't know a lot about the beginnings of the universe. We're still investigating it.
Yeah.
But what I can do is I can look at different types of reasoning and logic to find out whether or not I'm even going to get to a good place, right? There are some forms of logic that people use that don't actually get you to truth. And what you used is one of them. Now, that doesn't mean that you're wrong, but it means that it is not reliable, right? Your epistemology, what you just expressed to me, is tu quoque, right? You too. It is the argument from hypocrisy. I'm not making a statement about the beginnings, the instantiation, or whatever of the universe. I'm talking about what your point is. And so far, all you've given me is, well, you do it too, therefore you're right and I have to be, you're wrong and I have to be right by default. I need you to actually back up what you're saying, because if all you're going to do is point fingers, we're just going to get nowhere, man.
The other thing that I was just thinking about is what science does is it updates its definitions based on incoming information. So if that was a view of physicists that the universe was eternal, well, and that has changed, it's because new calculuses have been done to stipulate something else, whereas religion stays unchanged from Bronze Age reasoning about the world. I think that might be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean...
It's actually so that science has shifted to what the Bible is saying since millennia. While science 100 years ago claimed that the universe was eternal, the Bible in Genesis said that the universe was created by God.
Well, I think science says that the universe was created by a male entity, by a man.
Let me finish, please. I did let you speak. Now let me finish, please.
Go ahead.
So science came to the conclusion that the universe had a beginning. The singularity was not eternal. You can check, but Vilenkin and other cosmologists, they confirm that the universe had effectively a beginning. An eternal universe is not possible.
Okay.
So that brings you to the question, well, can nothing create something? No, it cannot.
Otangelo?
So if the universe had a beginning, it had a
Otangelo,
cause.
I'm going to need to start making notes, because you said so many things at once that I want to address that I'm afraid that I'm going to miss a couple. And I really do want to hit, as many of these as I can. So you did it again. It's called tu quoque, right? Instead of making a point on your own, you said science is wrong. Here's history. And you're talking at me. Why don't you care what I want to talk about? How come you're not saying, hey, Eric, what do you think about this? And then I can actually defend it, because you're putting me in a position where I would defend people that I don't know. And that's wrong.
We call
Okay,
that
go
kitchen
ahead.
sinking in a couples therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like throwing everything all at once so you
Yeah.
can't really respond to something.
Otangelo, we need to have better therapy. I need to make this relationship work. I want to. You're worth it. So instead of...
I do
Go
like the
ahead.
reflective listening
I'm
kind of thing.
listening.
Just let me know that you hear me.
Yeah. So let's start again.
I'm
Because
listening.
fantastic. Let's start again. What you did again is say science does this historically, or science is wrong, therefore I'm right. Why do you think that is a good way to come to truth? And why do you think that that makes your claim more likely?
It's a good question which you made now. How can we come to truth? And I would say we have three methods to find out about truth. These methods are science, philosophy, and theology.
Oh boy. I hope you've read
you
more than
agree with
3
that?
topics. No,
Well,
my gosh.
Those are
Boy.
broad. I mean, it totally depends. Yeah, that is really, really broad. But let's kind of zoom in, because I think you're trying to make a point, and I don't want to get lost off in the weeds. So, from what I'm getting, you're saying that you believe that there are 3 ways to understand the world: science, theology, and philosophy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are they mutually exclusive, or can they work together?
I think they work together.
Okay, so that means that point is actually not, it goes out the window, right? So what we should look at is, what tools do we have to understand that a thing is true? And I think that is a wonderful thing that we can explore together, Otangelo, right? So let's look at a few things. I heard you mention that you referenced something in the Bible, right? At the very beginning, God created the universe. And so I guess my question to you is, it seems like you're using the Bible as a reference point because you're taking that as true. So how can I come to understand that the Bible is true and other books are false?
How can you understand anything if you don't make the presupposition that a creator made you, your intelligence, your logic, your reasoning?
I'd be happy to talk about that.
An orderly world.
Otangelo, I'd be happy to talk
if
about
we
that.
look-
But let's get back and finish this piece first. I'd love to be able to talk about that with you. It's something that I've studied up on, and I'd love to be able to go into it. But I want to kind of close this last door, right? And this last door, I asked you, how can I come to understand that the Bible is true and other books are false?
Okay. I can give you many different reasons, but
Sure.
I would say that
Give me your best. Give me your best.
Would be I would say that before we come to talk about the Bible and the specific deity, that we should make first another clarification, and that would start with this question, which I asked you at the beginning. What explains our existence better, a deity or none? Once we have cleared up this question, then we can move forward with the next question:
Sure.
Which religion would fit best to that deity?
Sure.
So I ask you again.
No, I'll answer.
Why are we here?
Well, why are we here is different
Go ahead.
from the question that you asked. You asked, how can I make a logical decision? And what was the rest of that? I missed some of it. Now I feel bad.
My mind just has gone numb.
No, that's okay.
A little bit.
Otangelo,
A lot of that.
I want to answer your question. I
Sorry
feel like
to say that, but-
I feel like you've made a couple things, and I kind of tried to reach for a bunch of them, and now I'm missing.
I think it was yeah, no, go ahead.
Otangelo, could you repeat
Otangelo.
yourself?
Well, I can conclude my reasoning, and then you can answer. If we presuppose that no deity made us, and that we are the product of an evolutionary process, then as even Darwin said, how can you trust reasoning?
You need to ask me what I think of evolution before you can start sticking me with things. And again, that's off base. It feels really scattershot because that had nothing to do. I asked you to answer. I asked you to re-ask the question you asked before. You're giving me a totally different question.
Okay. Could you repeat your question, please?
Sure. My question was, Otangelo, I missed what you said a moment ago, and I want to answer it. Could you please repeat yourself? That was the question that I asked, and you started to go in a different direction.
Okay.
And I want to answer your question.
Okay, so I will repeat. I will repeat to you. How can we make sense of the world if we do not presuppose an intelligent creator, which is by himself rational and intelligent, and which made an orderly world with laws that are orderly, that we can explore, and that made also human beings that have the same capability as this entity has. That means to be able to reason logically.
That's a big list. That's a big list.
And
that's a lot to break down. I'm going to do my best. Okay, Otangelo? And you asked this question because I asked you, how do you know the Bible is true? And you said, we need to get this out of the way first. I appreciate that you repeated yourself. So let me break this down a little bit. Number one, the snarky thing that I can do is say, well, I am God and I created it. And the reason why I would be snarky that way is because there's just as much proof and justification that I am God that then you can justify your deity. And I could go down that path,
absolutely not.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we'll get there because we're going to talk about the Bible afterward, right?
You had a date you were born, and you know when you were born, and you know your mother and your father, so you had a beginning.
Oh no, it says so in my book, Otangelo. It says so in my book. I'm eternal, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm still breaking down what you said. Right? You said there has to be a God that has all of these qualities, right? There has to be a God that can create a world that you can explore. Is it possible, can you imagine a scenario where there was a God that created a world not so you can explore it, but that's just a byproduct? I mean,
why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Otangelo, the reason I'm bringing this up. Hold on. I don't want to lose this thread. Please, I don't want to lose this thread, and I want to walk with you through it. Right. So you said that these are necessary qualities, and so I pointed out one of those necessary qualities, and you said, "Yeah, why not? It's not necessary." So I can break down the qualities that you gave. And we can actually find that none of them are necessary. So would you like to state again what the necessary qualities are that you're talking about? Because you started the question by saying, how can you know anything if this God, and then you listed a ton of different things, how can you know anything if this God does not exist? So I guess let's start by identifying what your God is, because, we can't really get anywhere productive otherwise.
Okay, can I answer?
Absolutely, thank you.
If this God created the universe, which is matter, space, and energy, then that means that beyond the Big Bang, these elements did not exist. So this entity must be spaceless, matterless, and timeless.
So can you demonstrate to me that something can exist before the beginning of existence? Right. So I'm actually going to take you at part of that. I'm going to accept it because I want to entertain this thought.
I didn't say before because there was no time.
Right. So
I would say beyond the Big Bang.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we are talking here about
what about beyond?
philosophy.
I guess I don't know. Well, you're making truth claims about the universe. It's more than just sitting in a back room drinking scotch. We're actually talking about what you think about the universe we live in. So you said beyond the universe. What does that mean? Is there any way that we can tell that there's anything beyond? I'm having trouble with that word. It's very nebulous.
I use beyond because if I would say before, that would imply time.
Okay.
But before the Big Bang, there was no time. So there had to be a reality which was a void of the physical reality in which we live in.
How do you know that?
That means that it's philosophy. That is not about science. It's about philosophy.
And I appreciate you letting me jump in and ask because I want to follow, but if I disagree with something, I want to be able to jump in before we get way off the tracks. So I appreciate your patience there. Thank you, Otangelo. How do you know?
Okay.
How do you know that there's a necessity of something outside of time and space, and that, like, how can you even justify the existence of that kind of thing? It doesn't make really any sense to me. How did you come to that conclusion?
Okay, you asked several times about how I know, right?
Absolutely.
But my how can I say? My approach is not about absolute knowledge. Science is not about proving things. The Bayesian method is about what is the probability that X is true rather than epsilon. We are talking
Bayesian probability is.
I
I like that you're bringing up different things. Bayesian probability, though, has a very specific use, and that's not a good use of it, because essentially what you're saying is what is more likely. The thing that I think is more likely has to be true. And what my response there is, I don't know. I don't know, man. And for you to say that something is necessary,
but you can know.
How can I know?
But you can't know.
How can I know? What is the tool that you use to get to that knowledge, Otangelo?
Reason, logic,
love it,
and evidence.
I love it. So where's your reason, logic, and evidence?
Okay. Just a moment.
No worries. Take your time.
I would again say that we are talking about a philosophical issue and not about a scientific issue, because we are talking about a reality which is beyond the physical world. So my question to you is, did no eyes made the eye? Did no ears made the ear? Did no mind make the mind?
That's another wonderful question. And I actually...
Let's finish to make these questions, and then please you answer me.
Absolutely.
About 10 questions.
10 questions?
No conscience. No conscience made conscience. No morality made moral.
That's very
Nothing
giving.
Produced everything.
Otangelo,
Randomness.
Otangelo,
Fine-tuning.
I'm flattered that you think I'm going to remember all of this to be able to hold on and wait to talk about each one. I am not that smart. I am not that good. We're going to need to break these down, maybe one or two at a time, but 10 I can't do, I'm not going to be able to do that justice.
Okay, then I will resume my question to one of these points.
Thank you.
Okay. Did non-life produce life?
Okay, did non-life produce life? Well, there's a term we use, and that term is called abiogenesis. And that is the placeholder that we're using until we understand what it is exactly that caused life to begin existing. Actually, it's funny because we don't even have a clear line on where life starts. You have single-celled organisms, but you also have smaller things that it's a weird thing. But
viruses, a single strand of RNA, some of these.
Yeah. That's a really great point. But to say,
a single strand of RNA life.
But that's a good question.
That's a good question.
I don't know. But I do know that we have a term called abiogenesis. Now, did nothing or how did nothing? I don't know. I think that's the intellectually honest answer. I think that if I had the answer, it would be much...
It's not an honest answer. Do you know why? Because you are a very intelligent person. You run a radio show. and you deal with these questions on a daily basis.
I do,
and I tell you.
Well, I've got to tell you, Otangelo.
I can tell you.
My heart swells thinking about it, but I don't run this show. Do we have a camera to show the people in the back? Is that up? Hey, everybody in the back. And we have a live studio audience. Can we get a cheer for the people in the back? We've got Mark, Silas, and Vern in the back making this happen. I'm just some asshole, man. I came in and practiced behind the mic, and now people are watching, and I still haven't figured it out, but I'm really, really happy. But let's kind of break down. I appreciate it. Appreciate you, Otangelo. You said we're talking about the instantiation of now life on planet Earth. And it feels to me like what you're saying is you don't have an explanation. Therefore, the only other explanation is mine.
No.
Okay,
no,
then please correct
I
me.
Say that.
No. I said it feels this way, and I'm glad that you're correcting it.
I am not proposing a gap argument. If
Okay.
I say that abiogenesis is impossible, then I don't say it based on of what I do not know. I say it based on what science knows today. After 60, 70 years of intense scientific investigation, what has been brought to light is that cells are extremely complex factories. It's not an analogy.
Isn't that amazing?
Cells,
It's amazing.
literally,
Yeah.
factories.
Isn't
I
that?
would not say just one factory. I would say it's a complex of interconnected factories which are interdependent. That means that one factory depends from the other. Otherwise, nothing goes.
So, Otangelo, it sounds like what you're saying is you're giving now the argument from irreducible complexity. I'm happy to go through this with you. We still have some time. I have other people on the line, but I'm having a lot of fun here. What I do want to draw your attention to, Otangelo, and I'd love for you to go back and listen to this, is that there are times that we start on a good point and you pick up and you go somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
And not only is that hard to follow, but it doesn't get us to being able to have a really in-depth conversation. It feels like you've loaded up a shotgun with birdshot and it's just all over the place. I would love to zero in on any of those because I love talking about them. But for the sake of having a good conversation, I just want you to pick one. Because
it's been a barrage of questions. I mean, the first question that he came to was like, how do we make sense of a universe that was not created by a creator? How do we make sense of that?
And then it kind of bounced around a bunch, and you've been good kind of recentering.
If you feel that no creator is necessary, then it's up to you to explain how. Okay,
so I don't think you understand how that works, but I'd be happy to explain it to you, right? The neutral position is I don't know. Because you're not being forced to explain something you don't know. You're giving yourself the opportunity to explore. If you say...
So if you don't know, what is your radio show all about? Are you just having a radio show to express your ignorance?
Oh, dude, I'm ignorant about so much. I love it. Dude, do you know that when you actually explore things that you're ignorant about, you don't become ignorant about them anymore? Otangelo, hold on. How wonderful is it to give yourself permission to learn about the world? It's amazing.
Great point.
Listeners, and when does God show up in that situation? How would you recognize design in nature?
Fantastic. I would need to see what nature looks like undesigned and designed so that I can compare. In that example that you just gave, I would need to have something to compare it against.
Does God make mistakes? Can I ask you that, Otangelo? Otangelo, does God make errors?
Yes.
He does make errors?
Listen, I would like to ask another question.
No, you've asked a million questions. Can you answer one question? Does God make errors? If you have a creator, presumably that creator is very, very powerful. Does God make errors?
I know the direction where you want to go, but Eric, listen.
It's a question.
Hector's another host, man. That's
what
not
the
nice.
result is not designed would be no universe.
Otangelo.
It's kind of like
Be the
V,
result.
ask the questions.
Yeah, I mean, I like to ask questions
Yeah.
too. Kind of the dialogue piece of it, right? But what you just did
will
again,
answer your question.
yeah. What you did again is you said,
You asked, did God make a perfect universe, correct?
okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I asked, did God make errors? If you have this all-powerful creator that must have made the universe, does that God make errors in his design?
I would say as much. Genesis says that God made a very good creation, which with the fall of Adam and Eve went corrupt.
Okay.
Why do we have a
So
spleen?
the universe in which we live today is not
There's
perfect.
all these errors of
but God
design in
designed
biology,
it.
like our spleen. We don't.
Yeah.
Why do we have birth defects?
Why are you pointing at the Bible? I mean, you gotta actually give us a reason to open the Bible first. But because it seems like that's the response you gave is that for some reason I don't get it.
Like, are you saying that the fall from grace in the Bible that's what gave us birth defects and organs that we don't use anymore?
I say that the world we live in is corrupted because of the fall described in Genesis.
But that doesn't have anything to do with design. What about design? You're saying that the God designed the universe and designed humanity, but what about those aspects of our design that are faulty, like birth defects, like organs that we don't use anymore? What about that?
Well, let me ask you.
Hold on, answer him first. Answer him first.
How does that happen, though?
Let's suppose that you see a watch, and that watch has a defect. Would you say because of the defect of that watch, the watch was not designed? Or
oh no. Otangelo, actually, I love this because Hector is granting you. You know, he's saying if we existed in a universe where your God existed, right? He also took what you said before, is that your God is all-knowing and is perfect. And so if that is the case, he's talking about why there's defect, because my response would be snarky. My response would be, Otangelo, if I saw a watch with a defect, I would agree that, you know, in my experience, watches are created. And also, the watchmaker is shitty watchmaker, right? And so if that was the case, then it would suggest, right, that if we granted a divine watchmaker, that your God is a pretty shitty creator. And I really don't think that you would agree with that. So, I don't know, man.
Well, let me ask you something. Based on what criteria would you like to judge the creator? Who are you as a created being?
A rational thinking being, like you said. You use logic and reason. I mean, not only organs like that, but didn't God raise the earth several times because he says, I didn't like what happened to the first one?
Mm-hmm. But I mean, really, Otangelo, I think that is a good ending point. I know we have got other people waiting on the line, but look back, watch this. Toward the end, you were, you know, right around the middle, we were having a good discourse. But if it comes to how dare you, then one of two things is happening. Number one, you're out of good arguments. And or number two, your God is so weak that he needs you to say, how dare you? I don't think that's the case, so I would take that argument out of your toolbox, because that's not a good one. Makes your God look pretty bad, actually. You can do better. But in the meantime, have a wonderful day.
I said, I don't think you are, okay. Bye.
Take care, brother, and I'm glad that you called in. Keep having conversations. I hope that this kind of helped structure those conversations. And maybe being able to have a back and forth, a dialogue, instead of putting things on people. Because what I saw on Facebook when you added me was a whole bunch of people who are really good at sticking their heads up their own butts. I mean, you can't really have an argument if you don't have somebody else to talk to. You know, you just kind of make those things up. And don't get me wrong, atheists do it too. Yeah, you guys watching. Yeah, don't do that. So that said, I hope that you become a better logician. I hope that through this discussion and maybe future calls, if you're up for calling, that we can sharpen each other and get to know this world better. But today was not a great one.
That kind of felt like a bad acid trip.
Yeah.
Little bit.
Otangelo, take care, buddy.
Well, if you are interested, just let me know, and I can call you, and we can focus just on one topic.
I love
I'm more than happy to discuss again
and if
these topics.
If you ever come out here, I want you to know the first beer is on me. Take care, bud.
Okay. Okay, bye.
All right.
Interesting.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You can disagree, and the funny thing is a lot of people think and they get personally offended, right? They get personally offended that you're challenging their ideas when ideas should be challenged. You shouldn't respect an idea because it's somebody else's idea. You respect a person.
I agree with that. I agree that ideas should be challenged. Ideas are fair game. I agree with that.
Yeah.
That's how we create a better humanity.
Absolutely. If somebody says, Eric, I disagree with everything that you've said, that does not mean that I'm going to think that they hate me.
It was hard to focus on this guy because he was like the guerrilla warfare of making a point, make a point and then retreat, and then make another point and then retreat. If you do that, you can't even address the first point after the 35th point. My mind went seriously numb trying to follow where he was going.
Yeah, I tried to put a tack in it a couple times, and you tried to put a tack in it a couple times, and instead it was flying off in different directions.
Very resistant.
Yeah, but hopefully he'll watch and
oh boy.
Yeah.